Welcome, everyone. Let's just take a moment to get present into this moment right here and just thank yourself for taking time out of your day to practice mindfulness and do some meditation with us. Welcome to our mindfulness meditation series. And today we are going to be practicing mindfulness and meditation. You can think of mindfulness as a quality of mind or a mental state. And you can think of the meditation as the practice that helps us be more mindful. Mindfulness is popularized in the West by Jon Kabat-Zinn. He defines it as the awareness that arises through paying attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally. Of course, it's the non-judgmentally that really is an important component of that. And a meditation is a practice that can help us be more mindful and present. We don't have to do meditation to be mindful, but for the purpose of this series, we'll be doing both. So when we practice mindfulness, we're being aware of our current thoughts, feelings, surroundings, really in this moment, and accepting this awareness with openness and curiosity in that non-judgmental way. So there's not attachment to it. And when we meditate, we're learning to concentrate and focus. It's kind of like skill building for the mindfulness practice. And so with continued practice, you become less stressed, less reactive, less fearful, and less anxious. Lots of benefits to mindfulness. Of course, the more you practice it, the easier it is for it to just become a habit and to become a natural part of who you are, a mindful person, walking mindfully, eating mindfully, listening mindfully, all of those things. But it is a practice. So it's not something that just is going to, happen automatically. It's something that you really have to kind of hone the skill. So I always like to start with a little check-in so that we can see the difference from the beginning of the practice to the end of the practice of how we're feeling today. So in 2 words or less, and these are just some ideas here. You don't have to pick from these feeling words. We can kind of connect with each other. You can share in the chat. How are you feeling today? What's going on? Are you feeling calm and present? Are you feeling distracted or stressed, overwhelmed, maybe sad or anxious? See if you can identify and pinpoint 2 things that you're feeling. And I'm going to put mine in the chat as well. So today I am feeling a little hurried, and distracted. Extremely tired but hopeful, excited, content and overwhelmed. Okay. Of course, I think we've talked about in previous series that, all of us are quick to identify physical symptoms that are going on with us. It's really easy to go around and be like, oh, I've got a headache, or my foot hurts, or oh, my back's been killing me. But it's not as common for people to go around and say, I'm really feeling overwhelmed and sad today. And so I want to make that more commonplace. We're more in touch with our emotional well-being and have that emotional literacy so that it becomes as commonplace as sharing our physical symptoms. And that way it helps everyone feel more connected and less alone. And then notice where you feel this in your body. Defensive is listed twice. Oh, thank you, Olga. I see you sent me a direct message for that. I'll have to change that. I appreciate it. Maybe I was feeling really defensive that day and it just hit me. I needed to put it twice on there. So where do you feel that? Where do you feel that in your body? You may need to close your eyes, call up the emotion that you're feeling. We're calling them feelings because we actually feel it in our body, but a lot of people don't make the association of the tense shoulders the tightness in the jaw, the pressure on the chest as an emotion that they're feeling. Shoulders and lower back. Usually, when I'm feeling my kind of distraction, I feel kind of buzzy in my head, like I'm kind of scattered and all over the place. And I can feel like I'm taking shallow breaths. And, sometimes this doesn't come automatically. Being able to identify is something else that takes practice. Teeth grinding, lower back, and chest being tight. Yeah. So, then we may go to the dentist or the doctor and we're like, oh, I've got lower back pain. They give us a muscle relaxer or whatever. But we're not dealing with the root cause of the stress, right? So it may help temporarily. But in order to have, and that's how mindfulness and meditation can have an impact on us overall, is for us to make those connections so that when we practice, we can see the difference. That helps us sustain that feeling. Okay, let's start with some belly breathing. I always like to start here because it is the easiest way to connect the body to the mind. And when we do mindfulness or yoga, we are, that's a mind body practice. So sitting tall in your chair or on your meditation cushion, wherever you are, I want you to feel your sit bones, which are those little bones on the bottom of your bum. Feel them rooted into the chair. You can kind of sit on the edge of the chair, or you can lean back into the chair, whichever feels more comfortable to you. And then hands on your belly. And we're going to just soften the belly, allowing it to be open and full and big and round. And as you breathe in, you're going to bring the air into the belly, just like you're blowing up a balloon. And as you breathe out, you empty all of the breath out of the belly. Breathing in, fill it up. Breathing out, empty it all the way out. This helps to reset the vagus nerve, which is part of the nervous system that helps us regulate our fight or flight, our stress response. There's a reason why people say take a couple of deep breaths or count to 10. And that is so that you can put a pause on the reaction, the reactive and reaction state, right? Just that belly breath helps to downshift whatever stress we're dealing with. It just helps to calm the mind and the body so that you can get more present with it and you're able to work with it a little bit better. Notice if you have a clenched jaw. Good. Now we're going to start some chair stretches, chair yoga. So this, anytime we're getting ready to do some meditation, the whole reason yoga asanas and physical postures ever even started was because yogis would find that they would try to sit in their meditation postures to connect with something greater than themselves, and to still and quiet the mind. And they would feel the body aches and be like, oh, I need to stretch first. So they started doing physical postures, of course. In the West, we were really obsessed with the body. And so therefore, we just kind of picked up all of those body practices and had slowly started to really embrace more of the pranayama and the mindfulness and meditation. Although that's the real purpose of yoga to begin with, is to have that connection with the mind and body. So we're going to start with a little stretch. We're just going to make some circles. I like to imagine that I am drawing a circle with my nose so that I don't put any unnecessary pressure on my neck. But you do want to make your circle wide and tall. You don't want to be like a little bitty circle. You want to make it as round, as big as you can. And then switch directions if you like. And if you notice that you have a little tightness in the neck, you can kind of hold your hand where you feel the tightness, soften the belly, and breathe into it. So we don't want to ignore that tension or shy away from it or pretend it's not there or limit our mobility. Want to lean into it safely, breathe into it, and allow it to release. Nice. And then we're going to roll the shoulders. So you can go all the way around. No wimpy shoulders, all the way up, all the way back, all the way down, and all the way around. Incorporate the breath with the movements. We're going to inhale up, exhale back and down. Notice any sticky points in your shoulders, your shoulder blades, and your upper back, your neck. Good. And then squeeze the shoulders up to the ears and drop them down. Inhale, squeeze up. Drop down. And once more. So we're going to do a little cat-cow in our chair. And in order to do that, you want to sit on the edge of your chair. And then we're going to kind of push out the chest and then round the back. And you're going to tilt your tailbone back and forth, or your pelvis back and forth. So cat and cow. Cow would be like this. Typically, we would do that on hands and knees. Shoulders back, push the belly and the chest forward, and then round. Drop the chin to the chest, tuck the tailbone, round the back. And just go back and forth with that. Inhale as you come forward. Exhale back. Sometimes your watch will tell you, hey, it's time to get up and move around a little bit. These are some great stretches to do whenever you need a little break from sitting at the computer all day. Feel your feet grounded into the floor, even take off your shoes. And then come back up to center. Root the sit bones down and rise through the spine and the top of the head, shoulders away from the ears. Good. And then from there, we're going to cross the left ankle over the right knee. So this is a figure 4. You may need to bring the right leg. You may need to come up onto the tiptoes there and then hinge forward over the leg. You should feel this in the hip. Times when in yoga classes, we might do a pigeon. This is a seated pigeon. And you'll notice if you release and relax and exhale, you should be able to go down a little bit further. And take your left hand and put it on the bottom of your left foot and bring your right arm up. So we're going to get a twist in here. Look up at your thumb. And then back to center. We're going to switch sides. So bring your right ankle over your left knee, right knee. You can gently guide your right knee down so that you're opening up the hip here. You're stacking your ankle on your knee and then your bottom ankle right under your knee, and then hinge forward. Use the breath, exhale, allow yourself to hinge forward just a little bit more. Then bring your right hand to your right foot. Bring your left arm up and gentle twist to the side. Back to center. Good. Bring both feet back down. And this time we're just going to fold over a seated forward bend all the way down. Bring your hands between your legs. Let your head just drop and your whole spine and back release. Just drape over your legs or in between your legs. Let your hands go down to the floor. Release the neck. Shake out the head a little bit, and then connect to the breath. Good. All the way back up. Inhale the arms above your head. Open up your heart center here. We're going to bring our elbows down and hands in line with our shoulders. All the way back up. And then exhale down. Inhale up. Nice big belly. Exhale down. Once more. Inhale up. And exhale down. Hands back behind you. See if you can clasp them together and roll the shoulders back, and then kind of nod your head back and forth. Soften the belly and breathe. Good. You can roll your ankles, roll your wrists, stretch out your wrist, especially if you're at the computer a lot. Okay, shake it out. Beautiful. Okay, that alone should make you feel a little bit better. And now we're going to talk about our posture. So you want when we're doing meditation, especially if you tend to fall asleep, if you sit down or lay down, you want to make sure that you are sitting up nice and straight, your back is straight like an arrow. Legs, if you're seated, your legs can be crossed, and you can bring, if you'll notice on the picture here, she's got her foot untucked. So usually crisscross applesauce, we have the foot tucked under, but you can untuck the foot and that opens up your hips a little bit more. If you're sitting in your chair, you can just kind of sit on the edge of the chair with your feet grounded on the floor. Shoulders are open and relaxed. Your chin is tucked in slightly. You can close your eyes, or you can gaze down at the ground in front of you. It's up to you, whatever feels best. And then your lips are going to be slightly apart, with your tongue held against the upper palate, but just a very subtle kind of hold there. It should feel natural. Teeth are unclenched. You want to embody the flow of a river with the stability of a mountain. So your posture is very stable, but your breath is very fluid. And you can close your eyes as I go through a little bit of background of some foundational elements of mindfulness. The two that we're going to talk about today are acceptance and patience. So acceptance is a very active process. There's nothing passive about accepting things. It's not passive resignation, but an active recognition that things are the way they are. It doesn't mean that we can't work to change the world or our circumstances. It just means that unless we accept things as we are, we will try to force things to be as they are not. And that can create an enormous amount of difficulty or suffering. Acceptance, again, is not about resignation. It's about the courage to look at a situation in the eye and say, yes, I have this problem. Just like an alcoholic may have to accept a problem before they can do something about it. It's about having the awareness, facing it head on, not being in denial. And the strange thing about acceptance is that once we give up all the energy that we were using to lie to ourselves or fight against it, sometimes that situation will just kind of change all by itself. And then patience, it's a form of wisdom. It demonstrates that we understand and accept the fact that sometimes things must unfold in their own time. Just like a child may try to help a butterfly emerge by breaking open its chrysalis. Usually, the butterfly doesn't benefit from this. Any adult who's ever seen that before knows that the butterfly can only emerge in its own time. That process cannot be hurried. So, whenever you see yourself being impatient, see this as an opportunity to practice mindfulness of thoughts. Become fascinated by the kinds of thoughts that are popping into your head. You know, when you're at the grocery store and all of a sudden it seems like the lady is taking forever to check you out. And suddenly you're telling yourself a big story about it. First way to be mindful here is to accept the situation as it is. I'm at the grocery store and it's taking longer than usual rather than fighting against it. The second part is the patience of, okay, let's just observe where my mind goes whenever things don't happen in according to my plan. And then ask yourself, are these thoughts that I'm having true? What effect are the thoughts having on my emotional state? And some ways that we can practice this is like, instead of when we get to that grocery line and things are taking longer, is just to sit in that patience and acceptance. Or maybe we're driving and there's a yellow light. Rather than rushing to go through it, pausing and taking a moment to just breathe and allow yourself to be patient and accept the yellow light and stop at it. And just listen without interruption and notice what comes up. There's ample opportunity to practice acceptance and patience. And, part of the mindfulness training and the meditation practice is learning how to take this out into the world and use it, not just on the mat. So look out for those kind of situations. Okay, so we're going to go straight into our mindfulness listening practice. I want you to just sit in your posture. Get very nice and quiet. Follow your breath. We're going to start by paying attention to the sounds that you hear outside of the room that you are in right now. Notice and label the sounds that you hear without any judgment. In other words, if I hear the garbage truck outside, I'm not going to then say something like, and it's so loud, and aren't they late? And why aren't they picking up the trash can that I want them to get? That's the story and the judgment, right? So we're just observing the sound without the judgment. And then next, bring your awareness to the sounds inside the room that you're in. You may hear the air conditioner, or fan, or clock ticking. Just notice and label. Be patient as you're listening. And then bring your awareness in even further. We're going to listen to the sounds inside your own body. You may hear your heartbeat, different systems working in your body, the circulatory system or digestion, even hearing your breath, possibly your own thoughts. Just notice and label. Now ask yourself, who is the person that is noticing the thoughts? Are you the thoughts or are you the noticer, the observer of the thoughts? And in this way, we can become less identified with our thoughts. Now you can gently open your eyes if you'd like. Take a couple of breaths and just notice, how did that feel? Was it easy for you to stay focused on what you were listening for? Did the mind start to wander? Did you notice if there was any stories you were telling yourself about what you were hearing? That was mindful listening, just observing without any attachment to what we're hearing. And some ways that you can incorporate this into your day is by practicing mindful listening in your conversations at work and at home. So, how often do you find yourself asking a question and then not waiting for the answer? I mean, I do it a lot, around the house. I'm like, no, what time are you, or do we have softball practice or whatever? And then I don't listen for the answer. So it's on my mind and I'm thinking about it, but then I'm not clued in enough to hear the answer. So that's one way that you can practice. Or let's say someone comes up to you and you're working on something and you're distracted, a child or, a partner, and instead of acting like you're listening when you really aren't hearing it, you could say, hey, I'm not available right now to hear this. My mind is distracted. Can you give me a couple of minutes so that I can hear you more fully? Because then you're honoring yourself and you're honoring the next person by saying, I really value what you have to say and I want to hear you, but I can't hear you right now because I'm distracted. Maybe pick another time. Another thing is the cell phone. So, how many times do you, like, you're talking to someone and you're just holding the cell phone in your hand? Just the act of holding the cell phone in your hand, even if you aren't looking at it feels like you're not being heard, right? So, or even if you're at like a restaurant and even if they put the phone down on the table face down, it still feels like they're not giving you their present attention. Um, you can also notice like attention drops. Like if you're talking to someone, my husband, he teaches mindfulness as well. And so we will notice this in each other and it's kind of fun and kind of not sometimes because he'll say, I just noticed an attention drop. And I'm like, you're right. I just completely went offline. Your story is taking incredibly long. Of course, there's the judgment. And so why don't we start back over? Because I really value what you have to say, but I didn't hear what you said. I heard nothing. But now it's become so commonplace for us to have that kind of discussion that it's really easy. We don't get offended by it or anything like that. It's just like, oh, you didn't hear anything I said. Let's start it back at the beginning. And in that way, you can have better communication. You can have better communication with your teams, with your coworkers, with anyone, if you will value that listening and be more mindful when you are listening. Another way to practice this is to not interrupt when people are talking. It's so tempting because we think that if we interrupt or share something that connects with them, that it's a way of honoring the conversation and connecting with them. But most of the time, that means that we're thinking about what we have to say rather than really being present for what they're telling us. So sometimes the most loving thing that we can give someone is our full undivided attention. And so practice that mindful listening of, I'm not going to let my attention drop. I'm not going to look at my phone. I'm going to ask for clarification. And if my mind goes offline, I'm going to tell them and be honest so that we can start back over and I can really hear what we're saying. And then I'm going to try not to add my judgments in. That's really mindful listening and mindful communication. And then also repeating what you heard for clarification. So Brene Brown is really big on this. They repeat everything, in their culture of this is what I hear you saying, so that you make sure that you're having that communication. So when you're doing mindful listening, it's really mindful communication as well. And the way to practice that is to hone your skills of just listening, being present, noticing, observing, and then using that in your everyday life. So I'm really big on how can we use this? I want y'all to be able to use it practically in your life. All right, let's do some skill honing. And this is the counting the breath meditation. It's a very common practice for meditation. Last week we did the open and focused meditation. This week we're going to count the breath. It's great for centering the mind, developing concentration. We're simply going to be counting backwards from 20 to 0. And we're going to synchronize the counting with the breath. So you'll count the even numbers as you exhale and the odd numbers as you inhale. So you're going to exhale 20, inhale 19. Then exhale. Light. Right in the middle of the thing. Count so from 20 to 1. And once you get down to the bottom, if you make it all the way to the bottom without losing your count, then yay for you. It's not very common. What I want you to do, if you get to like 18 or 17 and you notice that you have been distracted and you're thinking about something else, then you start back over at 20. Okay. Now, sometimes people will do this practice and they'll tell me, oh, I made it to 0. I don't know what you're talking about. That's usually because they were lost in thought the whole time and didn't even realize it, right? So really, we're just focusing on the breath, counting backwards. If you think of something else, what am I having for lunch? I need to pick up so-and-so. Then you start back over at 20. So we'll start now. You can close your eyes, get your posture. And when you're ready, you can start your counting. You can bring your awareness back. Off of the counting, open your eyes. Notice how you feel. You should feel pretty, your mind should feel pretty calm, focused, helps us center and have develop more concentration. So it's great for kids that struggle with focus because you're helping to like fine tune their instrument. It's like whenever the kids don't remember this, but a radio dial and like you have the static and you're kind of bringing it into the station. That's what meditation can help us do. And mindfulness, it helps us like zero in and find that clear signal. So we're going to do that one more time. This time we're going to start at 25 and go back to 0. I made it to 8 that time. So I try, when I first started doing this, I really would like get to 18 and then it'd be like, I got to start back over at 20 because my mind would start wandering. Start at 25 down to 0. If you start to wander, think about other things, start back over at 25. So you can begin whenever you're ready. And bring your attention back off of the counting, back to your breath. So when we get distracted and then come back, that is the point of meditation. So a lot of people will say, I can't meditate, I can't sit still, my mind starts wandering everywhere. Yes, welcome to being a human. That is what happens, right? What we're looking for is the awareness of, oh, my mind just went somewhere, I'm going to bring it back. That is the key. So when it goes and you bring it back, each time we do that, we're doing push-ups for the brain and we are making those neural connections. We're creating new neural pathways of focus and concentration and being present. And that is the key to, doing our meditation practice. Now, there are 3 levels of meditation in kind of the yoga philosophy, the limbs of yoga. But this is really this one pointed focus and concentration is where we begin. We really start here of just learning to focus it in. Then once you can really focus in, then you can start to just be and allow yourself to kind of go blank and see what comes up after that. But the starting point is really with the awareness. All right, so let's just do a little check-in again. Describe your mood now, now that you have meditated and practiced your mindfulness. See if your your feelings, your how you're feeling it in the body, if that has changed at all. Just kind of close your eyes and check in for a moment. Notice how you feel. Do you feel more calm, more relaxed, more peaceful, less scattered, more connected, less stressed, more focused, relaxed and calm? Good. And so if you find, good, if you find that you have, especially proud of yourself, good. If you find that you do get pretty scattered or you got overwhelmed, so much at work to do, and you can't figure out where, where do I even tackle next? I'm all over the place. Just set a little timer on your phone for 5 minutes, get quiet, do that listening, kind of start on the outside, come in, and then count the breath. And then you'll notice, okay, now I have more clarity. Now I can get more focus. You're going to get so much more done and have a more enjoyable time doing it if you spend those few minutes getting yourself in a better state than if you just try to power through. And that's how we start to calm that stress response, right? And that's really what we want, because if we have our motor running in the background all the time, that's when we start to get a lot of the disorders that are related to stress. And that's we don't want. We want to have longevity and take care of ourselves. So resources, I love anything from Jon Kabat-Zinn, Headspace, or 10% Happier is Dan Harris. He's from ABC News. He has a book, he has an app, he has all kinds of training and a podcast. It's great. I love the Calm app. It's fantastic. It has all kinds of practices you can do. And that way you just kind of have that every day. It's right there for you, ready to go. So if you have any questions, let me know. You can always reach out to me. And you guys have a good rest of your week. I hope this helped you get more centered and focused and ready to tackle the rest of your workday.